Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live broadcast. I'm Steve Altition, Director of Client Partnerships here at Pacific Cascade Legal. And today I'm here with divorce coaches Bill Miles and Kristen Noel to talk about how to approach your spouse about a divorce and have the talk. So, Bill, Kristen, before we start in, just tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Okay, thank you for having us. We're so happy to be back with you. I'm Kristen Noel, and with my partner in life and business, Bill Miles, we are the co-founders of the Intuitive Divorce, which is essentially a coaching program that we created as divorce thrivers to transform the experience and outcomes of divorce. We're currently working with mothers, but it's a way to save time, money, and heartache. But it's a holistic approach, a strategic approach, and we are just committed to really divorcing differently.
I
The
love
best way
that.
to put it.
You're perfect for this. This is absolutely perfect. I remember, we talked about a year ago and you gave just great information. And what I like about you guys is you're really straight talking. I mean, it's like cutting through all the minutia and getting to the stuff. So today, we're going to talk about the conversation that initiates a divorce. You know, it's over. I'm out of here. I want a divorce, all that kind of stuff. However, it's put, clearly the talk is a big deal in any divorce. And when we talked, I saw, you guys have an approach to this that is a bit surprising. So can you elaborate on that?
Sure. I guess I'll just start. I'll dive in
Yeah.
here. The talk is daunting. Now again, we are working with primarily with mothers, and typically, women are people pleasers. They want to fix everything. They will really buck it up for the sake of the family, for the sake of motherhood, their career, their families, for a lot longer than maybe they should have. And usually by the time they get to the point where they're like at the threshold of a divorce, they're ready to explode. But this notion of the talk, to when they're going to actually drop this bomb and say, look, I'm out of here. Like I've had enough. Like this is it. That can actually be so daunting that it stops so many people in their tracks. And I think the reason is, I mean, obviously it's, we don't take divorce lightly, even though we are divorce coaches. I think you need to really make sure that you've been conscious about, arriving at this decision. And is this the right thing for me? Is this the right thing for my kids? Is this the right thing for my family? Um, but when you get to that point with about having the talk, we literally have had women just drag their heels, like they're petrified about what to say. And I think the reason we say that we have a surprising approach about this is because I think the myth is that you've got to go in there and give an Academy Award winning speech. And you've got to recount everything, like how we arrived here, where we are, and all the solutions. And essentially that's like impossible. You're never going to be able to recount all of that in one single conversation. So what we try to do is really work with our clients to, I always say preparedness is everything, right? So just get really clear about what it is you want to accomplish in this conversation, this talk. Really what you're just doing is you're going to be delivering the information. You're going to just come in and you're going to say, this is where I'm at. I've filed for divorce, or I'm about to file for divorce. My decision is final, you know, and then you have to walk away. And I know that sounds like kind of crazy, but it's like you actually have to walk away from the conversation, allow your spouse to have their reaction, to have their feelings. And remember, you are no longer the person to soothe them in that situation. You can still be really compassionate and clear, but you're there to deliver a message. And then you need to walk away. You need to
And the
retreat.
fact is, you cannot drop a bomb on somebody and soothe them in the same conversation.
Yeah.
Good
And
point.
too often people try and do that. And it just, here's the thing, and we'll talk more about this as we go, but if you if you lead in the conversation with too much information, the message gets lost.
Mhm.
If you
Yeah.
layer on too much emotion, or I will say editorializing, you did this, you did that, whatever, this happened, that's all the other person's going to focus on. So you just stick to the facts and keep it simple at this point. There are going
I
to be
love that.
many follow-up conversations.
Many follow-up conversations, but it's like
Yeah.
really just understand what the objective is with the talk. The talk is to deliver a clear message. I want out
Yeah.
of here. I want a divorce. And also, I'm extending an invitation to you to collaborate with me on this so that, for example, whether we're working with mothers, let's keep the kids out of the conflict. And then also say, like, respectfully, perhaps I'm surprising you with this information. Maybe I'm surprising you with this. I know this is a lot to process. I'm going to leave the conversation here and we can revisit. I'm going to come back and we can revisit this after you've had time to process this.
I love that. I love that. I'm sure you've gone to them. I've gone to them. A lot of webinars about giving speeches, about making presentations. And the best advice that I ever got was by, someone who said, if you say three things to the audience, they'll remember three things. If you say 10 things to the audience, they'll remember three things. And it really is that, that, and I really, what struck a chord is when you said you're not the soother. Um, we've had people come in and talk to us, and I talked to my husband, and I, tried telling him, it's not going to be bad. It's not such a bad thing. It could be good for, and getting into all this other stuff, like you said, that just sort of starts to muddle, your first message, which is like, let's get divorced. So,
Right.
um,
You're also then, you're sort of like robbing them of their own experience and trying to fix something that's not yours to fix. The bottom
yeah,
line is lots of people, we end up facing a divorce for myriad reasons. But the point is, if you've gotten to that place, you just need to deliver the message. And if you're if you're prepared and you're in a calm state, you literally can just get in there, say what needs to be said. Of course, it's seductive to say like, oh, it's not going to be so bad and we can work together. And no, that's not your role any longer. That's not your role. You can still be clear and concise and caring and compassionate, as I said, earlier, and just say, this is also an invitation. I'm inviting you to collaborate with me on this so that our divorce doesn't become an ugly runaway train. But this is a lot to process right now. So in the case
yeah.
of like maybe someone like not being prepared or not, or being taken off guard, um, deliver the message and leave the room.
Yep, yep. Because it's interesting because one of the things you kind of talk about is the other person obviously generally is going to have a lot they maybe want to say. And you know, you're now just preparing for telling them, you're preparing to have to defend yourself. And that can be really difficult. I mean, you know, how can you keep people sort of in their mindset of not going off, not necessarily responding?
Well, so there are a few things about that, and we'll talk in a minute about because there are strategies to actually prepare for yourself, both from a tactical standpoint and an emotional standpoint, before you have the conversation. But let me jump ahead a little bit in order to answer your question. Like, how do you prevent your spouse from engaging, which they may do? They may get inflamed and retaliate and get crazy or what, who knows? And of course, you can remove yourself from the room. The house is only so big, so many rooms you can hide in. But ultimately, the key is to not engage with them if they are in an inflamed state, and actually just say, I know this is a big deal. We will talk about the details of this, but it's not going to happen right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not with
I
this.
also am going to jump in and just say one other thing that one of the, preparedness is just being clear. Again, that doesn't mean you have all the solutions and you know what it's going to look like, but you know what your objective is going into that conversation. I'm going in there to tell you what's happening. And I'm going to tell you very clearly and very calmly. You're going to stay calm. I'm not going to get triggered by what might get tossed back at me. And I'm going to have some boundaries. I'm going to think about my boundaries. My boundary number one is going to be that I'm going to say this in a way that I can feel good about. And then I'm going to exit stage left. And I'm going to ask you to respect that boundary. And I'm going to respect that you need to process your side of it. And we're going to have many, many, many conversations and many, many opportunities, but we're not going to get into this right now. I always love it. I mean, again, we work with women, so we'll have a lot of, they're married to narcissists, or, there's all kinds of extreme, crazy stories. And sometimes there's like a big blow up, and sometimes it's just a slow, low grade demise. But whatever reason it is, usually when a woman stands on the threshold of divorce, she's been putting up with a lot and she's pretty firm about leaving. But you'd be surprised the responses. When someone starts to beg or plead or cry or scream or trigger you, you're going to have an emotional response. That is precisely why, I mean, we don't have a crystal ball. I mean, you have a sense of how your spouse may react or respond, or what other confrontations have looked like. But again, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen. But this is why you go in with a boundary, which is, I'm delivering this message. I'm staying calm. I'm not engaging. I'm not going to engage in this tit for tat. We're not going to fight. We're not going to create a drama. We're not going to have a big explosion. And I'm going to walk out of the room. And
I love
it saves a lot. It's hard because probably had you approached your marriage, the communication in your marriage like that, you might not be in a divorce. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We learn what we learn when we learn it. But
Yep.
the main thing is really, self-preservation for you and your spouse. Because when you're in that heightened state of emotion, that's not the time to unravel how we got here. We are where we are.
So how, you're saying preparedness is everything, and that absolutely is true, because without that, everything falls apart almost immediately. But how do you prepare? I mean, how someone's going to come in and say, well, what do you mean by prepare? What do I do? How do I prepare?
Well,
Well,
there are,
go ahead.
we can both talk about this, I'm sure. But so there are very practical things if you're thinking about this, that you want to get in order. And things like getting a bank account in your name, having a credit card in your name. Because a lot of women don't. Maybe the men handle the finances, always have. Maybe they do. I don't know. But you're going to need some independence, some sovereignty as you go through this. And we've seen it far too often that as soon as the spouse hears this, they suddenly suck up all the asset, put it in their own account, disappear, whatever it is, And so you want to kind of ease into this. You want to get copies of, whatever, insurance records, health records, school things, tax returns, things that you're going to need access to, because you don't want to have an angry spouse lock the door and not give you access to these things, which happens more often than you'd imagine. So that's, these are the things in kind of the logistic aspect, which I'm sure you are very familiar with. But there's an emotional side of preparedness too, which is, really getting clear on why you're doing this, honoring yourself, honoring your needs in this, something maybe you haven't done for many years, which is how you've wound up here. And as long as you are kind of prepared emotionally that this is a big deal, but I know this is right for me. And I now have some tools, i.e., I'm going to keep this short and not get into any diatribe about how we ended up here and everything else and how the division of assets is going to go. That's not the time for that. Then you can kind of take that next step, which is to have the conversation. And
I'm going to
Kristen,
jump
I'm
in
sure you
also a
want
couple
to,
things.
yeah.
Preparedness also involves, have a conversation with a lawyer. Know like the law in your state. No, or you may want to have a conversation with a coach. You want to, I love when we get to work with women who haven't had the talk yet, who are just really embarking on this. I also walk them through something, and we like write out a script. We write out a script. What do you want to say? Now, that doesn't mean you're going to go in there and rehearse the script, but you're going to get clear. It's like studying for a test. You're going to get really clear about what it is, like to what Bill was saying, what it is that I want, what it is that's important to me. What is it important? What's important to convey? Again, usually people will come to me with like, 3 pages and we put it down to 2 paragraphs, because we cut it, we edit out, but it gives you an opportunity to get, I don't want to keep using the word clear, but it's a really great word, to get really precise with how you're feeling, what led to here, so that you don't get derailed. Because when someone starts begging and pleading, and we have this happen where women will say, oh my God, my husband came home and now he wants to do counseling. And I always say, okay, good. I want you to be clear that you are ready to take this step. I want you to feel good about it. I mean, not that anyone feels great about a divorce, but it's like, I want you to know that you gave it your best effort, that you can hold your head up high and say, I really tried. So getting clear is also really just making sure you are ready to take these steps.
It sounds weird, but it reminds me of when I go to the store. And if I write it down, I usually remember to get it. And even though I don't necessarily read it when I'm at the store, just the process of writing it down kind of helps that. But because if something goes off the rail and the one thing I really wanted to say, I didn't really say because I got flustered.
That is so true. That helps. Yes, keep it simple, rehearse it.
I like
Kristen actually wrote kind of a sample, what a dialogue might look like. We use that as kind of a model for, the mothers in our program, but I'm sure, be happy to read it.
Oh, I'd love that. Just before you do that, I wanted to make a note to say and make clear to people who are listening, the time to come to you about this is before the conversation.
Well, it's the ideal time. It's the ideal time, but we really have mothers that are in all in various stages. Listen, it's very easy to get derailed in a divorce also. You can start the process and then retreat. I'm sure you've seen this, even in your practice, people will start and then it's like they'll stop. And that's okay because everybody's got to do what they've got to do in their own timing. And I really honor that. I never try to convince anyone. We're not convincing anyone to get a divorce. Divorce is not easy, but also staying in an unhealthy marriage, that's not so easy either.
Yeah, that's true. All right, the example. I love examples.
So what I did is, I just really recently did this in a class in our program, just as sort of a template to give an example of how clear the conversation can be. So this would be a woman saying this to her husband. This may or may not come as a surprise to you, but after a lot of painstaking thought and consideration, I want you to know that I've filed for divorce. This isn't a decision that I've come to lightly. And I want you to know that out of respect for our family, I'm inviting you to collaborate with me on this so that our divorce doesn't become an ugly runaway train. We can work together to figure out how best to move forward so that we can save time, money, and heartache for all. Please understand that my decision is final. I know this is a lot to take in, so I'm going to leave this conversation here and we can pick it up when we've had some time to process what I've said. When you've had some time to process what I've said. In the meantime, I suggest that we sleep in separate bedrooms and begin to quietly act as separated individuals. I should tell you that I've retained an attorney and you may want to do the same or allow mine to create the initial draft. Let's figure out how we can collectively protect the kids and keep them out of the conflict. I'm open to hearing your thoughts on that as we proceed. And that's it.
I really like that. You know what I really like about this is you are hitting just a couple points, but you're taking control of those points. It's not now they're taking control of that. You're beginning to take control of going forward. That's pretty brilliant.
Well, the other thing what I really want to highlight is also it's not triggering your ex. It's really hard for people to not say, well, you did this, so now I need to leave. Right. You don't have to, in this conversation, tell them all the reasons why you're leaving. They know why you're leaving. Yeah. They know why they're leaving. They know what they've done. So, they've been in this marriage with you. So Because if you start with the finger pointing, well, you did this and no, that just derails the whole conversation. You know, we all know that, like, it's very, very important. We deal with a lot of communication in our program, how to communicate with your kids, how to communicate with your lawyer, how to communicate with your family, how to set boundaries, just to protect yourself so that you're not getting everybody's, getting flooded with everybody's opinions about what you should do and shouldn't do, and how to tap into your own intuition about that. But it really is going back to the word clear and clarity and preparedness. It's not the time and place to rehash why we're here. It's just
Right.
to deliver. Think of it as, I'm just here to deliver the message.
Yeah, yeah, and it's what derails a lot of divorces as time goes on, because all of those things that you're avoiding, I mean, most of those things you're avoiding are things that aren't going to affect the divorce. The fact that somebody,
Yes.
wasn't there, wasn't listening, wasn't this, wasn't that. It's true, but it's not going to affect the end of the divorce and how, at least legally, it plays out generally.
Right.
And so
Right.
you're kind of, that's really nice. You're kind of trying to already start to steer away from that stuff.
And realistically, I'm not saying you're going in there stone cold hard. You're probably going to walk into that room and, fall into a puddle of tears. But we each have to be dealing with our own emotions.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's going to come up. And that's not an easy conversation, but it's so much easier when you just stick to the point. And then you can unpack all the other layers. There's going to be, well, what about the kids? Or what about our finances? Well, who gets the house? Or who gets that's all going to come into play. But if you're also setting the tone, you're setting the tone of how I'm going to show up for this divorce. It may be
Yeah.
different than we showed up for our marriage, but you're setting the tone about, and really invoking boundaries, what I'm available for, what I'm not available for.
And this is,
And no,
you
go.
touched on an important thing, which is, taking control. Because one thing that we empower the women in our program to do is kind of to take control of the process. And that doesn't mean me against him. It doesn't mean being a bear or anything like that. It means understanding how this works and that you can have a proactive role in the process. Um, you can be strategic in how you engage with your lawyer, with the courts, with your ex, soon to be ex, with your children. And so we give them tools to be able to do that, so that it's not about someone, trying to overbear the other person. That's not what it's about. But it's also not being a victim to a system that they don't understand anything about.
Yeah. Yeah. The moving forward part after that, um, is that it's not really part of having the talk, but all of those things you're talking about, it's good to know. It seems like having the following talks, because at any point in that, those things can happen.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're,
of course, they
it's like
will.
I said, you're setting
Yeah.
the tone, right?
Yeah.
So you're setting the tone, and you're basically, and you listen, when you start to invoke boundaries with someone that you haven't, they're going to push back. It's like having a kid. Like, your kid's going to ask you, I want this. And then you say no. And then they go to daddy, I want this. They're going to keep trying. They're going to keep trying to get the answer they want. So be prepared that if you suddenly, like, walk in and you're this assured, calm person, you're going to get some pushback, because
Yeah.
they might not be taking you seriously. So it's your job to say, I've really given this a lot of thought. This is why we love working with women before the talk, so we can prepare them for the talk, right? And then they go in there, and their job really is, yes, but did you hear did you hear my boundary? I'm not available for this right now. I need space, you need space, and then, formulate a way of, mode of communication, how we're going to proceed. But what you're also saying is, we're going to have conscious communication. We're going to have calm communication. Doesn't mean we're going to, like, feel good about it, but it's like, we're not going to be yelling and screaming and carrying on. And, we're going to find a way to get through this in a, a reasonable way and a way to communicate.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
even if you can't, even if you can't control the other person, which you can't, you can control what you're willing to engage in, how you're willing to engage in that. And we've had, to really guide our mothers sometimes, especially those who are going through this living under the same roof, that look, I will not converse with you in this tone of voice, period. Shut the door.
Yeah. No, you just hit on the big thing, which is you can only control yourself.
Yeah.
We get that a lot. How can you can you make my spouse do this? Can you make my
No.
spouse stop doing that? I mean, no. But
Let me get my magic wand.
You.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Wow, we blew through 30 minutes. And I'm just my brain is going wrong, we need to do another one of these. How do you talk to the family? How do you talk to the kids? How do you talk to, I mean, there's so many, things that kind of come up. And I'd love to hit those later. But for now, before we go, I really do want to give you guys a chance to let people know who may want to get in touch with you, have further questions, how they can do that.
Sure. So we call it the intuitive divorce. And if you go to our website, intuitivedivorce.com, you can learn all about us. And right at the top, there's a free workshop. So about a 30-minute workshop that you can watch just to give you some tools to help you move forward and also give you an overview of how we operate. And then if it's a fit, if this resonates with you and you'd like to have a conversation, there's an opportunity to book a strategy call with us. It's free, where we just talk through your situation and see if it's a fit to work together and how we can help. It's as simple as that. But also, Kristen is writing blog posts multiple times a week, but so there are blogs up there. There's podcasts. We have our own podcast. We've been on multiple podcasts such as yours. So there's a lot of information there as well. So, and you'll find our social media as well there. So that's it. Yeah.
That is great. I mean, I've been on your website, and there is a ton of great stuff. I will say that right now. So thank you both. Kristen, that you were wonderful. Just both of you, just great stuff. And so thank you for joining us today. You're invited anytime to come again. And Bill, again, I like you just got to hit the point. And no, I think people learn that way. I really do.
Thank you for having us, though. We love it. And also what I love is that you as a law firm understands the importance of collaboration and the need to help your clients in myriad ways, right? People going through divorce really, we always say that divorce is an opportunity. It really is an opportunity to heal and to break patterns and to not land in a second divorce. And the tools that we, impart upon our clients, it's like, they're life skills, they're life tools. So I've loved working with you, collaborating with you. And, it's wonderful when attorneys and financial advisors and coaches can work together to help their clients get through, because it just makes the experience so much easier.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. So thank you very much. I will say also, if anyone has further questions on today's topic and you've forgotten what was said or whatever, you can always post it here. We can get you connected with Bill and Kristen. And so until next time, stay safe.